Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special edition show where I do my 2020 NFL season predictions, division winners, wild cards in each conference, Super Bowl, awards, and a lot more. So, without further ado, here we go. And we're going to start at the AFC East, and I have winning this division with a record of 10-6. The Buffalo Bills. The Bills are a team that I think has some pressure on them. They broke through last year, made the postseason, and now with Tom Brady out of the division, they are the cheek pick to come out of this division, and for good reason. Josh Allen expected to make a year 3 improvement. Stephon Diggs was added to this offense to go with Cole Beasley and John Brown as the receivers. Devin Singletary can make a year 2 leap. Offensive lines, not bad. Deion Dawkins just got paid. Mitch Morse is someone who I like. And on the defensive side of the ball, that's their strength. I love their pass rush. Jerry Hughes, Ed Oliver. They have some depth. I like AJ Epineza, the rookie defensive end. Tremaine Edmonds made the Pro Bowl a year ago. Secondary's not bad, obviously. Trey White, Micah Hyde leading the way. In second place with a record of 7-9, I have the New England Patriots. This would be obviously the worst season in some time for Bill Belichick. Cam Newton is now the quarterback of this team, replacing the legendary Tom Brady. Sony Michel and James White are your running backs. Receivers, you still got Julian Edelman. N'Keal Harry is there. You got Jacoby Myers as well. Mohamed Sanu is, I believe, on the IR. Let's see if he was released. I don't even see him on the depth chart. I'm gonna find out right now. I thought he was still on the Patriots roster. Oh yeah, currently a free agent. My bad. So, yeah, Mohamed Sanu's a free agent, so they got rid of him. And that was a bad trade. They traded a second round pick to Atlanta to get him, thinking that he'd help Tom Brady last year. So they're banking on a lot of young receivers to make jumps and young tight ends as well. Offensive line's very solid. You got a couple Pro Bowlers still there. You have Shaq Mason. You have David Andrews, who's coming off an injury. Isaiah Wynn's a guy that could break out on the line. Defensively, the pass rush is, I think, one of the weaknesses of this team. Obviously, Dante Hightower's not playing this year. He opted out. Lawrence Guy, and you have Shalik Calhoun. Second round pitch, Josh Uche. Third round pick of Fernie Jennings. And then in the secondary, you have the McCourty brothers, Jason and Devin. Stephon Gilmore's still there. He was awesome last year. And in third place in the division, going 5-11, the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I have the Dolphins finishing in third at 5-11. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to start the season as quarterback. I think it's a matter of when, not if, potentially for Tua. Jordan Howard and Matt Breida are running back upgrades. Devontae Parker coming off a breakout year last year. I don't like their other receivers, though. Mike Gesicki, I think, could be a breakout tight end. The line's improved. You have two rookies, Austin Jackson and Solomon Kindley. Eric Flowers had a good year with Washington last year. He was signed as a free agent. On the defensive side of the ball, I still think there's work to be done here. Christian Wilkins could be a year 2 breakout guy for them on the front seven. They bring in Kyle Van Noy to help out the front seven too. Secondary, they signed Byron Jones to a big contract. Xavier Howard's a good player. They draft Noah Igbenogany from Auburn. And in last place at a record of 5-11, the New York Football Jets. I think the Jets are a team that's certainly under a lot of pressure this year. Sam Darnold in year 3. A lot of people thought he was going to be the breakout star quarterback of last year, but he got mono and it kind of ruined his season. Although in games which he has played, the Jets were 7-6. Le'Veon Bell, I think, is poised for a bounce back year. The receivers, they have a lot of guys that are number 2s and 3s, like Rashad Perriman, Chris Hogan, Jamison Crowder, Denzel Mims. I think they're banking on to contribute as well. Chris Herndon's a good tight end, so is Ryan Griffin. So Sam Darnold is good, 2 good tight ends to throw to. Offensive line, they made some changes. A lot of journeymen in there. They draft Mekhi Becton with their first-round pick. On defense, Quentin Williams is someone on the front 7 that was not that great his rookie year. They want him to be better. Obviously, they lose C.J. Mosley because he opted out. Avery Williamson's not bad. Jordan Jenkins, they re-signed. And then in the secondary, they got Brad McDougal back in the Jamal Adams trade with the Seahawks. Marcus May is still around too. All right, now to the AFC North. Winning this division, I have with the record of 11-5, the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens had a dream season last year, going 14-2, but it didn't really mean much because they lost in the second round to the Titans, or in the divisional round, I should say. Lamar Jackson aiming for that repeat of MVP. I feel like his critics kind of got on him for losing that playoff game, and he's 0-2 in the postseason, which is not good for somebody of his caliber. You got Mark Ingram at running back. J.K. Dobbins they drafted. They have some depth at running back. Wide receiver, Marquise Brown, they're banking on to have a year to break through. Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, Chris Moore. Offensive line, very, very good. One of the better ones in the league. Ronnie Stanley had a breakout year last year. Orlando Brown's really good. And I forgot to mention Mark Andrews, the tight end, who had a great year last year. A lot of people think he's going to be an awesome fantasy guy this year. Nick Boyle's their tight end, too. On the defensive side of the ball, the pass rush is very good. Brandon Williams. Calais Campbell was a good pickup in the trade from Jacksonville. They only gave up a 5th-round pick. Derek Wolfe comes from Denver. Patrick Queen was drafted in the first round. Their big weakness last year was their linebackers, and he should address that. Matt Judon's still around. They're looking to trade him. Secondary is very good, led by Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. In second place, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers with a record of 10-6, and I have them getting the first wild card in the AFC playoffs, so the 5 seed. Ben Roethlisberger back from injury. They look to have big things from him, trying to squeeze one last ounce of greatness from one of the better quarterbacks of the century, not named Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And Drew Brees, too. You can't forget about him. And Peyton Manning, and he's probably the 5th best quarterback from the century behind those 4 guys that I listed, Manning and Rodgers. And then obviously Mahomes is entering that conversation too. And then there's Russell Wilson. And there's a lot of great quarterbacks from the century. But I think Roethlisberger should get more respect because he's been to 3 Super Bowls. And 1, 2, obviously. James Conner's in a contract year at running back. He wasn't that great last year. Wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster wasn't good last year. They expect a bounce back year from him. Deontay Johnson's a popular breakout pick. James Washington really hasn't lived up to hype. Chase Claypool they drafted. I think he could be a contributor. Eric Ebron was a good free agent signing by the team at tight end. Vance McDonald's still there as well. So who knows, maybe they play 2 tight ends. Offensive line, one of the best in the game. Alejandro Villanueva, Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, all still around. Defensive side of the ball, that is their strength. Led by TJ Watt in the front seven. You have Cam Hayward still there. You got Stephon Tuitt, who had a great year last year. Devin Bush is somebody that the Steelers would like to see improvement from. Bud Dupree had a good year last year. Their secondary obviously got dramatically better once they traded for Mika Fitzpatrick. Terrell Edmonds, year 3 guy. Steven Nelson's underrated. Joe Hayden is somebody that I think has seen better days. But the fact that there's better guys in the secondary, I think, could help him. In third place in this division with a record of 9-7 and earning I have them as the third wild card, the Cleveland Browns. I think they have a better year than they did last year. New coach in Kevin Stefanski. Baker Mayfield is somebody that is in year 3. They want a bounce back year from him. I am somebody that believes that he will. You have 2 great running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Wide receivers, you got Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. And that is a really good foundation there at those 2 positions in running back and receiver. And then they have 2 good tight ends too, Austin Hooper and David Njoku, who has been a little injury prone and inconsistent. I think that's why they went out and signed Austin Hooper. And then they draft Harrison Bryant from Florida Atlantic as well. Offensive line should be better with the addition of Jack Conklin. Joe Bitonio still there. Jedrick Wills Jr. is a good first-round selection for them. Defensive side of the ball, their pass rush is, I think, very good, led by Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, who came with Odell in that Giants trade a year ago, Sheldon Richardson, B.J. Goodson's not bad. Their secondary, I think, could be better than it was last year. Denzel Ward is somebody who I think is super talented. Grady Williams could have a breakout year. Carl Joseph, maybe a change of scenery could help him. And are in the bottom of this division, 5-11, the Cincinnati Bengals. This might be the best last place team in the league. They really, in my opinion, have improved, especially on the offensive side of the ball, pretty much solely due to the drafting of Joe Burrow, who will bring so much life and energy to this franchise that they've lacked for a while. Joe Mixon just got paid. Giovanni Bernard's a good RB2. They have good receivers. A.J. Green, I think, is poised for a good season. John Ross shows flashes and he gets hurt. Tyler Boyd's solid. Auden Tate is someone that people like. T. Higgins was drafted in the 2nd round from Clemson. That guy has been in a ton of big games in his life. Tight end, you got Drew Sample, year 2 guy. Offensive line is still one of the worst in the league, and that's the one thing against Joe Burrow. If Jonah Williams has a good year coming off the injury, he's someone that I consider the asterisk rookie, which would mean somebody that's really not a rookie because they missed their rookie season. It's what I like to call the Blake Griffin rule, because obviously Blake Griffin missed his rookie season with the Clippers back in 2010. So I guess I think, is the key to that line potentially getting better. Their defense is still bad. Although they have 2 good pass rushers, Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins, that have been there for a decade. The rest of their front seven's not good. DJ Reader, by the way, good pickup. I like him, so he should be mentioned. And then the secondary, I don't really love either, although they picked up 2 former Vikings and Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander Waynes, obviously on the injured list. And now to the AFC South. I have winning this division with a record of 10-6, the Indianapolis Colts. This was a hard division to pick, obviously. You have a team that made the AFC title game last year. You have a team that has been a perennial playoff team under Bill O'Brien. And then you have the Colts, who have a really good roster. And change at quarterback, obviously, Phillip Rivers. I think he's poised for a good season behind a great offensive line and talent around him. Good running back duo, Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. Receivers, you have T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman Jr., Zach Pascal. So you're deep there. Tight end, you have Jack Doyle as your starter now with Ebron going to Pittsburgh. Offensive line, I think, is the best in the league. I had two players from this line ranked as the top respective player in each of their positions, and Ryan Kelly, the center, and then Quentin Nelson, the guard. Anthony Costanzo is very good too. Braden Smith had a good year last year. Defensive side of the ball, their front seven's better with the addition of DeForest Buckner. Justin Houston's still there. Darius Leonard is an awesome player that I think has some potential to be special if he isn't already. Secondary, I think, has a chance to be better. Xavier Rhodes, I think, is a bounce-back candidate. You also have Malik Hooker there, who's in a contract year. Rock Ya-Sin can make a year or two jump in that secondary as well. And then you got Kenny Moore, who I think is one of the more underrated nickels in the league. In second place with a record of 7-9, I have the Houston Texans. Obviously, this team got worse. Deshaun Watson, I think, is special, but I don't love the talent around him, especially after the trading away of DeAndre Hopkins. David Johnson comes in that deal to be their starting running back. He was someone that was great 5 years ago and really only had one great year, and everybody thought he was going to be some star. Brandon Cooks essentially replaces Hopkins at receiver. Will Fuller is somebody that never stays healthy. Randall Cobb's a good number 3 receiver at this point of his career. Darren Fells is bounced around a lot. Jordan Akins could break out at tight end. The offensive line is actually not bad. It used to be bad, but now it's not because they traded for Laramie Tunsil last year. Titus Howard showed promise as a rookie last year. Zach Fulton, I think, solid. Nick Martin's not bad. Max Sharping isn't bad either, so that's a not the worst starting 5 in the league. Certainly better than what Joe Burrow has. Defense, their pass rush, I think, is still very good. J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Zach Cunningham, Bernardrick McKinney, all still around. Secondary, I think, is the weakness of this team still. Vernon Hargraves comes over from the Bucs. Bradley Roby, somebody that has played in some big games, but it's not somebody I trust. In third place in this division with a record of 6-10, the Tennessee Titans. This is a team I think is going to absolutely regress from the AFC title game all the way to a bad team. There's just that team every year that they expect to continue their success, and then they completely flop. Last year, it was the Cleveland Browns because they played well at the end of the 2018 season. Then they trade for Odell, and then they have a bad year. And then in the NFC last year, it was the Chicago Bears, mainly due to the fact that Mitch Trubisky regressed. Even though they went 8-8 last year, people forget that because they only remember what they saw and what the story of that team's season was. But yeah, Ryan Tannehill, I think, is part of the reason why I have the Titans regressing. I don't think he's as good as what the Titans paid him, or as good as he was last year, turning that offense around. Derrick Henry, I still think is fantastic. I had him as my second-rated running back coming into the year. A.J. Brown had a good rookie year last year. Adam Humphries isn't a bad receiver. Corey Davis was someone that the Titans loved, but really hasn't put it together. Jonnu Smith being a breakout tight end. Offensive line, I think, is actually pretty solid. Taylor Lewan's good. They have a rookie I think has a chance to be very good in Isaiah Wynn, but he's on the IR right now. Ben Jones isn't bad. Defense, they get rid of Jarrell Casey, which I think will ultimately prove to be a mistake. Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that a lot of people think will break out, as well as Harold Landry. Rashaan Evans is somebody that could break out as well in the front seven, and they signed Jadeveon Clowney to like a 1-year prove-it deal. And then the secondary, Malcolm Butler's still around. You have Kevin Byard, Kenny Vaccaro, or Dory Jackson, someone I think is going to be very, very good. I think he is trending upward. And a fun subplot for the Titans is that they signed Stephen Gostkowski. So the longtime Patriots kicker now with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. And in the bottom of this division with a record of 4-12, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the worst team in the league, in my opinion. Gardner Minshew's their starting quarterback. I'm not convinced he's the quarterback of the future. They cut Leonard Fournette. Their starting running back might be James Robinson. I know they're talking to Devontae Freeman. I think if he signed there for, let's say, a 1-year deal and is good, then maybe they can keep him around, or he can get a big contract elsewhere. Wide receivers, DJ Chark, Chris Conley, D.D. Westbrook, Laviska Shenault was a good draft pick. Tyler Eifert's their starting tight end, the former Bengals tight end, and then James O'Shaughnessy was somebody that had some good fantasy games last year. Offensive line has some talented players, but they really haven't put it together. Jawan Taylor, somebody I like, second-round pick from last year. Andrew Norwell, free agent from Carolina from last year. A.J. Kahn. Cam Robinson has not panned out to what the Jags have hoped. Defense, front seven, obviously get rid of pretty much everyone. Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell. Josh Allen's still around. I think they feel that he's going to be very important for them going forward. Taven Bryan, first-round pick from 2 years ago. Miles Jack has not really put it all together yet. Joe Sherbert was a free agent signing from the Browns. Secondary, C.J. Henderson comes in. They're banking on him to be the replacement for Jalen Ramsey long-term. And now to the AFC West. I have winning this division at a record of 12-4, the Kansas City Chiefs, your reigning Super Bowl champions. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league. We all know that. He's amazing. You had Damian Williams, who opted out, and now Clyde Edwards-Helaire is their starting running back, who I think is poised for a monster year. And people are talking about him as like a top 5 fantasy running back, which I think could be realistic with Williams opting out. Tyreek Hill is amazing. Sammy Watkins is still on this team. Mecole Hardman could have a year 2 jump. Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends in the league. The offensive line, I think, is one of the more underrated ones in the league. Mitchell Schwartz is awesome. Kelechi Osemele, I think, is a good addition to the line. Eric Fisher, probably not worth the number 1 overall pick in the 2013 draft, but he's not bad. On the defensive side of the ball, their pass rush, I don't think is great, but they have a couple good players. Chris Jones, who just got paid, and Frank Clark. And then in the secondary, you got Tyrann Mathieu, who is an injury-prone player, but helped them last year when he was healthy. Daniel Sorensen helped them out last year a lot, too, in the secondary. In second place, I have with a record of 9-7 and getting the 6th seed in the AFC playoffs, which would be the second wild card, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are a team that many people are high on this season, including myself. Drew Lock is a year 2 quarterback that I think could be the breakout QB of the AFC. Good running backs, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, Royce Freeman. Jerry Jeudy was their first-round pick. They have him and Cortland Sutton at receiver. Deshaun Hamilton had moments last year, too. Noah Fant, I think, could be a breakout tight end this year. Good offensive line. Graham Glasnow comes over from the Lions. Dalton Risner could have a year 2 breakout. Garrett Bowles was good last year. Lloyd Cushenberry is somebody that could be a solid rookie for them. And on the defensive side of the ball, great pass rush. Von Miller, that injury news is very sad. He, I think, was poised for a big year. A lot of people think he may miss the year, but I still think that they could get the job done and make the postseason without him because of the depth on this team. Bradley Chubb, I think, could be poised for a big year. Shelby Harris is good. Jarrell Casey comes over in the trade from the Titans. Mike Purcell's not bad. And then the secondary's better with the trade of A.J. Boye. Bryce Callahan had a good year last year. And then the safeties, Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons, were awesome last year as well. In third place in this division with a record of 7-9, the Los Angeles Chargers. It's weird for them not having Phillip Rivers as their quarterback. And now Tyrod Taylor is their starter. Justin Herbert they drafted in the spring. Maybe he eventually sees playing time. Austin Eckler's now their starting running back with Melvin Gordon off to Denver. Wide receivers, you got, I think, the most underrated receiver in the league, and Keenan Allen, or certainly the AFC. There's another receiver I think is super underrated too. Mike Williams is somebody that the Chargers I've always had high hopes for, but really has not put it all together. Hunter Henry is somebody that's gotten hurt a lot over the past couple years. Offensive line as a whole was bad last year, which I think hurt Phillip Rivers last year. Mike Pouncey is somebody that I think is a part of that positive regression for the Chargers offensive line. Trey Turner comes over in the trade with the Panthers. Brian Balaga's not bad. Defense, they are loaded. The front seven, you got arguably the best defensive end in all of football in Joey Bosa. Linval Joseph comes over as a free agent from the Vikings. Melvin Ingram's still around. Kenneth Murray was drafted in the first round. Denzel Perryman's not bad. Secondary, Casey Hayward, I think, is the most underrated cornerback in all of football. Chris Harris Jr. comes over from Denver. Nasir Adderley is somebody that the Chargers drafted in the second round last year. Desmond King is like their version of Patrick Peterson, where he runs back punts and then he plays in the secondary. It's just unfortunate that Derwin James is out to start the season. That's a big blow for the Chargers. And in the cellar in this division, finishing at 6-10, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. This is year 3 for John Gruden, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy to me. You got Derek Carr, obviously, still there. I think he could have a big year this year. Offense has improved. Josh Jacobs in year 2. Henry Ruggs, obviously, first round pick. Bryan Edwards is going to start for them now with Tyrell Williams on the injured list. I think that's secretly a big loss for the Raiders because he was really good for them last year. And then Hunter Renfrow, I think, could have a breakout year. Darren Waller had a breakout year at tight end last year. Offensive line could be better. Trent Brown was a free agent pickup from the Patriots from last year. Colton Miller, I think there's pressure on. He was a first-round pick 2 years ago. Richie Incognito's there. Rodney Hudson's not bad at center. And then Gabe Jackson is someone that I think could bounce back after a poor year last year. Defense, Cleveland Farrell, first-round pick from last year. In their front seven, Max Crosby had COVID-19, but he's going to be ready to start the season. He was a rookie last year as well. They made some improvements with the front seven, bringing in Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski. The secondary I still don't love. Trayvon Mullen, Jonathan Abram, Damon Arnett. Arnett, I think, was reminded me of last year when they took Cleveland Farrell and overdrafted him. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. And then Amik Robertson, the rookie from Louisiana Tech, I think could be a surprise contributor for them as well. Now to the NFC. We'll start in the NFC East. I have winning the division with a record of 10-6. The Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott in a contract year. There's so much pressure on Dak this year to deliver, and for Jerry Jones to pay him. Ezekiel Elliott obviously got paid last year. One of the best running backs in the game. Their wide receiver depth is the best in the league. They got Amari Cooper. You got CeeDee Lamb, who they drafted in the spring, and then Michael Gallup, third-round pick from 2 years ago. Blake Jarwin's going to be their starting tight end with Jason Witten now onto the Raiders. Their offensive line is still very good. Tyron Smith is still around. Zach Martin, they just restructured his contract. He's one of the best guards in the league. Cam Irving, veteran. Connor Williams, I think, is somebody that can improve for them. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think they've really improved on that end. They bring in Everson Griffin to play alongside DeMarcus Lawrence. Dontari Poe is there. Gerald McCoy they cut. That was unfortunate. They signed Aldon Smith, who they're banking on him seeing his San Francisco days. Leighton Vander Esch was not healthy last year. He should be better. Jalen Smith's very good. And I still think the weakness of this team is their secondary. Trayvon Diggs was their second-round pick out of Alabama, the corner. Anthony Brown isn't bad, and neither is Xavier Woods. Darian Thompson was a former Giant that they brought in. In second place in this division at 10-6, I have them getting the 6th seed in the AFC. That is the Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz is still around. I feel like he's hurt every year. Miles Sanders, I think, could have a big breakout year for Philly this year at running back. Alshon Jeffrey, they were curiously trying to trade. I certainly would not have traded or would try to trade Alshon Jeffrey unless they are dead set on handing the keys to Jalen Reagor, who is injured right now and may not play on Sunday against Washington. Deshaun Jackson's still around. You have the best, if not one of the best, tight end duos in the league, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Offensive line takes a little bit of a hit because no Andre Dillard and no Brandon Graham, Brandon Brooks. Brandon Graham's on defense. No Brandon Brooks or Andre Dillard, which are two big losses for the Eagles' offensive line. Jason Peters is back. Jason Kelsey's still very good. Lane Johnson's one of the more underrated tackles in the league in my mind. And on the defensive side of the ball, their pass rush is awesome. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave was good for them last year. Derek Barnett they have high hopes for, but he really hasn't put it all together. And then in the secondary, obviously they make the big trade with Detroit, landing Darius Slay. Rodney McLeod's a veteran. That's been around a while. Nickel Roby-Coleman wasn't a bad addition. Jalen Mills, I just don't think is all that great. In third place, I have with a record of 5-11, the New York Football Giants. Obviously, Daniel Jones, promising rookie year last year, although he turned the ball over a lot. But a lot of that was due to a poor offensive line and a lot of players around him not being healthy. Saquon Barkley's in for a big year. He is motivated. He wants to get paid like Derrick Henry did and Ezekiel Elliott did and all these other guys did. McCaffrey, Mixon, you name them. A bunch of running backs got paid. And then at receiver, you have a big three: Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Golden Tate. Or not really a big three, but a solid three. Slayton's a guy I really like. I think he's the best receiver on this team, quite frankly. Evan Ingram at tight end, he's healthy. Offensive line should be better. Andrew Thomas was their first round pick. Many people had him as their OT1 coming into the draft. Kevin Zietler's not bad. Cam Fleming has bounced around. Nick Gates showed promise at center last year, and Will Hernandez is trying to bounce back from a sophomore slump season. On their defensive side of the ball, I think this is the worst defense, certainly in the NFC, arguably in the whole league. It's between them, the Bengals, and the Raiders for me for the worst defense in the league. There's a couple other teams in there, the Jets, the Arizona Cardinals, if some certain guys don't make jumps, are certainly in that conversation as well. And then obviously the Lions too. Their front seven has some talented guys. Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence, Blake Martinez comes over from Green Bay. Lorenzo Carter, third-round pick from a couple years ago. And then the secondary, James Bradbury, free agent pickup. Jabril Peppers came in the Odell deal last year. Corey Ballantyne was bad last year. Julian Love wasn't bad last year. And then Xavier McKinney, unfortunately, hurt his foot, so he's going to be out the first half of the season. He was their second-round pick this past year. And in the cellar of the NFC East at 5-11, the Washington Football Team. Dwayne Haskins, a year two quarterback, under a lot of pressure in my mind. Ron Rivera, new coach. Oh, by the way, the Giants have a new coach too, and Joe Judge. And then the Cowboys have a new coach in Mike McCarthy. So the longest tenured head coach in the NFC East is the Eagles coach. So that's pretty crazy, if you ask me. Obviously, Doug Peterson. So Ron Rivera in year one in D.C., Dwayne Haskins, first-round pick last year, showed flashes towards the end of the year. I just don't like a lot around Haskins. Antonio Gibson's somebody that I think is poised for a good rookie season at running back. Two rookie receivers, Antonio Gandy Golden and Isaiah White. Terry McLaurin had a good rookie year last year at receiver. Logan Thomas and Jeremy Sprinkler, they're TE 1s and 2s. Offensive line, I think, is the worst in the division. And that's saying something because the Giants' offensive line has been dreadful for years. But to me, Washington's is worse because they got rid of Trent Williams. And then the Giants, obviously, drafted Andrew Thomas. And they have a solid center. And then they got a good guard in that Odell deal with Kevin Zeitler. The only good lineman on this Redskins team, this football team, is Brandon Scherf. But everybody else I don't think is all that special. Defensive side of the ball, you know who's special? Chase Young. He obviously was the second overall pick in the draft this past spring. I think he's the odds-on favorite for the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then the rest of their ends and tackles are first-round picks from the previous 3 years. Montez Sweat in 19, Zarin Payne in 18, Jonathan Allen in 17. Their linebackers aren't all that great. Ryan Kerrigan, by the way, is still around as well, so they have depth on the defensive end position. Secondary, Kendall Fuller and Landon Collins are guys that are making big bucks. Ronald Darby comes over from Philly. Trey Apke showed promise, but I don't know if he's really all that great. And now to the NFC North. I have winning that division with a record of 10-6, the Minnesota Vikings. This was a team that made the second round of the postseason last year, lost to the Niners. They were the 6th seed last year, too. Kirk Cousins is a guy that's always under pressure, bad narratives and bad reputations. We all know he's like 6-26 against teams that finish seasons above 500. Flops in big games, although he did not flop in the Saints playoff game last year, although he disappointed in the Niners game. But then again, everyone disappointed against the Niners last year except for Patrick Mahomes pretty much. So Cousins is back. They extended him in the offseason as well. Dalvin Cook's in a contract year. He wants the money. I think he's poised for a big, big year. Adam Thielen, still around the receiver. I think he's the most underrated player in the league, let alone receiver. Certainly the most underrated receiver in the NFC. Most underrated player in the entire league in my mind, too, because this guy's a stud. Obviously, no more Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson was a first-round pick last year. He replaces him. Olabisi Johnson and Tajay Sharp are two good depth pieces at receiver. Good tight end duo, Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr. Irv Smith Jr., I think the Vikings are expecting big things from this year. Offensive line, Garrett Bradbury can make a year or two jump. Ezra Cleveland should start for them over Dakota Dozier. Patty Flynn, Brian O'Neill are guys that I don't really love all that much. And on the defensive side of the ball, just got news today that Danielle Hunter has been placed on the injury reserve list. Is going to miss the first 3 weeks, possibly more. Big loss for them on the pass rush, and that's huge that they traded for Yannick Ngakoue now because he'll certainly help them. And they didn't even give up much to get him either, which was amazing. And I knew that they needed help on the edge with Everson Griffin gone. Linebackers are pretty good. Anthony Barr, Eric Hendricks. And then the secondary obviously loses pieces. Xavier Rhodes, Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes, they're all gone. Mike Hughes is still around. Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris are good safeties. They're banking on Cam Dantzler and Jeff Gladney to contribute for them too. Holton Hill is not that bad either, by the way, in the secondary. Coming in second place, I have with a record of 8-8, the Green Bay Packers. So I have them going from 13-3 to 8-8. That's a precipitous drop, if you ask me. Aaron Rodgers, there's a lot of reports that he and the coach Matt LaFleur don't get along. Rodgers, I think, is someone that's facing a ton of pressure this year. Maybe his last year in Green Bay, too. You never know. Aaron Jones had a breakout year at running back last year. Jamal Williams isn't a bad back. Neither is A.J. Dillon. Devontae Adams is still around. Alan Lazard showed flashes last year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is someone that the Packers were banking on last year but didn't really come through for them. It was more Lazard than Valdez-Scantling. Mercedes Lewis at tight end. Offensive line isn't bad. You got David Bakatari still there. Elgton Jenkins could be like a year two jump guy for them. But certainly their line isn't as good as it was when Rodgers was peak Aaron Rodgers, that's for sure. Pass rush. Kenny Clark's really good. He got paid. Preston Smith and Darius Smith were awesome last year. Secondary, Jair Alexander's awesome. Darnell Savage Jr. could have a breakout year. Adrian Amos is really good. Kevin King showed flashes as well. In third place, I have at the record of 6-10, the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Matt Patricia is the head coach there still. Matt Stafford coming off the injury. They were having a promising year last year, then he got hurt, and then things fell apart. But I'm not a big Lions fan anyway. I don't like the coach, although Stafford's a really good fantasy quarterback. Good duo at running back, Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. Adrian Peterson they signed recently as well. You have Kenny Golladay, Danny Amendola, and Marvin Jones as your top three in your receivers. T.J. Hockenson could be a year two breakout guy at tight end. Their offensive line, I don't think, is all that great. I do like Taylor Decker, and I do like Frank Ragnow. Jonah Jackson, rookie, starting at right guard. On the defensive side of the ball, Trey Flowers is still there on the pass rush. Danny Shelton was a pickup that they had. Jamie Collins is another expatriate that's there. Secondary, obviously Jeff Okudah, the first-round pick. Desmond Trufant was a free agent pickup. Tracy Walker's not a bad safety, by the way. I think he's one of the more underrated safeties in the entire league. And in the basement of this division at 5-11, the Chicago Bears. I flirted with picking the Bears at 6-10 and being in a tie with the Lions, but the reason why I bumped them down a win is simply because I feel like they chose the wrong quarterback. Mitch Trubisky is not good. I think that 2018 was just a dream year for the Bears because he was a good, quote-unquote, game manager. And obviously, we know that Cody Parkey is to blame for the loss against the Eagles because he missed the game-winning field goal. But Trubisky regressed so badly last year. I just don't think he's any good, quite frankly. And I think they're going to be in play for like Trey Lance or Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to be Trevor Lawrence, the sweepstake winners, but I think that either North Dakota State's Trey Lance or Ohio State's Justin Fields could be their quarterback come 2021. David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen is their running back duo. Not bad. Allen Robinson, I think, is one of the more underrated receivers in the league. His issue is that he doesn't have a good quarterback. Anthony Miller's been a disappointment. Ted Ginn Jr. comes from the Saints. Jimmy Graham comes from Green Bay. Graham, I think, is washed up at this point. Cole Kmet, good rookie. I think he'll contribute for them. Their offensive line wasn't good last year, and that's the argument for Trubisky. Guys like Cody Whitefair and Bobby Massey, Charles Lano Jr., James Daniels, none of those guys are really all that good last year. And if those guys are better, could help Trubisky's cause, but I'm not so sure. And then Jermaine Afini's on their line now as well. Front seven, Akeem Hicks, awesome. You got Roquan Smith. You got Khalil Mack. Robert Quinn was a free agent pickup from Dallas. Danny Trevathan's not bad. Obviously, they had a big opt-out. Oh, it was Eddie Goldman. That's a big loss for the Bears in their front seven. That's another reason why I bumped them. Secondary, Kyle Fuller is good. Tashawn Gibson's a veteran. He's been around a while. Eddie Jackson, somebody that is a solid safety. Jalen Johnson, second-round pick. Now we'll move on to the NFC South. I have winning this division with a record of 11-5. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, I said it. Tom Brady and the Bucs will win the NFC South. I think Brady has a big chip on his shoulder this year, and big FU to Belichick and the Patriots. I think he's ready to go. He was working with these guys throughout the pandemic, working out privately. LaShawn McCoy's on this team now. So is Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones. So that's three solid running backs, if you ask me. And then they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn in the 3rd round. So that's 4 options there. I think the starter probably will end up being Ronald Jones, but maybe it'll be Fournette. Mike Evans is awesome. Chris Godwin had a career year last year. Tyler Johnson was drafted by the Bucs as well to pretty much replace Brashad Perryman, who went to the Jets. Rob Gronkowski out of retirement to join Brady. O.J. Howard is someone that they really are hoping puts it all together. Cameron Brate has been injury prone a little bit, but I think that he could be trade bait if the Bucs want to go out and get a piece on defense that can help them now, and then Brate can go to that other team in a deal potentially. So they have some trade options here as well. Offensive line solid. Tristan Wirfs was their 1st-round pick. Ali Marpet's good. Donovan Smith's good. And on the defensive side of the ball, Vita Vea, I think, is quietly turning into a solid nose tackle. Jason Pierre-Paul's still around. Ndamukong Suh's still around. Levante David's awesome. Shaq Barrett coming off a career year. Devin White could be a breakout guy for the Bucs. Secondary, Antoine Winfield was a 2nd-round pick. Sean Murphy-Bunting's still there. Carlton Davis still there. So a couple 2nd-round picks there starting at the cornerback positions. In 2nd place in this division, I have finishing at 10-6 and earning the 5th seed in the NFC, which is the first wild card, the New Orleans Saints. 3rd straight postseason with a heartbreaking loss. This past one, obviously, against the Vikings. Kyle Rudolph, the debate whether he pushed off and that should have been OPI or not, but ultimately the Saints lost, and they're sitting here waiting for another season to begin. And obviously 2019 NFC title game, or the 2018 season, was when the non-PI call happened, and it propelled the Rams to the Super Bowl. And then 3 seasons ago was the famous Minneapolis Miracle, the Stephon Diggs catch and run. Drew Brees, this could be his last year. You never know. They signed Jameis Winston in the offseason, and obviously Taysom Hill's there as well. Alvin Kamara is a good running back. They're apparently close to a contract extension, by the way. Latavius Murray, good backup running back. Michael Thomas, one of the best receivers in the league. Emmanuel Sanders was a good free agent pickup for them. Traquan Smith's a good number 3 receiver. Jarrett Cook's been a solid tight end for them. Josh Hill showed flashes for them last year. And then they drafted Adam Trautman in the 3rd round last year. Offensive line's one of the best in the game. Cesar Ruiz is a rookie. He's starting at right guard. Eric McCoy, 2nd-round pick from last year, is good. Ryan Ramczyk was my top-rated tackle coming into the season. Andres Pete's very good as well. And on the defensive side of the ball, the front 7, I think, could be good, and I think it depends on a couple guys to bounce back. Malcolm Brown's there. Cam Jordan's very good. Sheldon Rankins really hasn't put it all together. Marcus Davenport improved in year 2. Alex Anzalone, I think, could have a bounce-back year. Demario Davis, I'm not a huge fan of. The secondary, Marshawn Lattimore's a stud. Marcus Williams is very good. Obviously, it's sad because everyone remembers him because he had the missed tackle that led to the Diggs touchdown in that Minneapolis Miracle. And then you got Malcolm Jenkins and Janoris Jenkins in that secondary as well. In 3rd place, I have with a record of 7-9, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, Matt Ryan's still around. Dan Quinn, I think, is a coach that's certainly on the hot seat. Haven't made the playoffs since they blew the 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. Matt Ryan's still around. They signed Todd Gurley to replace Devontae Freeman. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Those are two very good receivers. Gage Russell's not that bad either. Hayden Hurst they acquired in a trade with the Ravens. Maybe a change of scenery can help him. Offensive line, they're banking on 2 first-round picks from last year, Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry, to improve. Alex Mack's not a bad center. James Carpenter's a journeyman. Jake Matthews had a great year. I want to say it was last year they made the Pro Bowl. It might have been the year before. Defense, Gardy Jarrett's one of the more underrated tackles in the league. Dante Fowler Jr. comes over as a free agent. Takaris McKinley's still there too. Deion Jones isn't bad. Secondary, Keanu Neal's been injury prone. Ricardo Allen is somebody that really hasn't been all that great. Isaiah Oliver, second-round pick from a couple years ago. There was one, and A.J. Terrell they drafted with their first-round pick this year. And in last place in this division, I have with the record of 5-11, the Carolina Panthers. A lot of changes. Matt Rule's their new head coach. They signed Teddy Bridgewater 3 years, $63 million. I thought that was a ridiculous contract that they gave him. So I don't think he's worth it. Christian McCaffrey is worth the contract he got, though. That 4 years, $64 million extension he got, or was it 4 for 84? Either way, he's worth it because he's awesome. He's the best running back in the league right now. They're banking on DJ Moore to have a breakout year at receiver. They signed Robbie Anderson. Curtis Samuel's not bad either. Seth Roberts comes over from Baltimore. Ian Thomas or Chris Manhertz will start for them at tight end, replacing Greg Olsen. You got the offensive line. Obviously, Russell Okung comes in at tackle. They trade away Trey Turner. John Miller comes over as a free agent as well. Taylor Moton is a second-round pick from a couple years ago that they want to see improvement from. Defensive side of the ball, their pass rush, I think, will be improved with the draftings of Derek Brown and Yankter Gross-Matos in the first and second rounds, respectively. Shaq Thompson's a guy they like. Brian Burns is another guy that they're banking on a leap from. Kawan Short's very good. So this front seven, I think, is the strength of this team. Maybe it will keep them in some games. I just don't trust Bridgewater, and that's what it ultimately comes down to for me, for them. And then, obviously, tough division, too, with Brady and Breeze in there. Secondary, they lose James Bradbury. Trey Pride Jr. is a fourth-round pick out of Oregon. Trey Boston's super underrated in my mind. Deontay Jackson is someone that they're banking on to make a year 3 jump. NFC West. I have winning this division with a record of 11-5. The San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl a year ago. I think they have an excellent chance to get back there. It's one of the rare Super Bowl losers that I think has a chance to go back there. First, I think they have the best chance to do that since the Patriots in 2017, obviously. Jimmy Garoppolo had a good year last year. I think that he was just got too much blame for that Super Bowl loss, obviously. He and the coach, Kyle Shanahan. Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman are your running back combo. Jared McKinnon's still there. They signed him a few years ago from the Vikings. He just has been injury prone. Deebo Samuel is somebody that they're expecting to make a jump. Kendrick Bourne's still there. Brandon Ayuk, they're banking on as a first-round pick. George Kittle's the best tight end in the league. Jordan Reed could be a good TE2 if he stays healthy. Offensive line, Mike McGlinchey, I think, could make a jump in year 3. Trent Williams, they acquired in the trade from Washington. He'll help that unit. They lose the center, Weston Richburg, and he's on the PUP. that's a loss for them. Defensive side of the ball, obviously their strength. Their front seven, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, first-round pick, Dee Ford, who they really like, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, and then they also like Kawan Alexander, who I think they tried to trade. Dre Greenlaw showed promise as a rookie last year. Secondary, Richard Sherman was awesome last year, reverted into the guy he was, leading the Legion of Boom in Seattle. That certainly helped them. Jimmy Ward had a great year last year. So did Jaquizzi Tart. Kwan Williams was actually good for them too last year. In second place, I have with a record of 9-7 and getting that 7th seed in the NFC, that third wild card spot, the Arizona Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury year 2, Kyler Murray year 2. Everyone expects Kyler Murray to make this big jump in the stardom. A lot of people think he's this year's Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's going to be as good as Lamar last year, but I think he could replicate a poor man's version of what Lamar did last year, and that could be good enough to get them to the playoffs. Kenyon Drake was a good trade get from them last year at the deadline. Chase Edmonds actually wasn't bad for them at points last year. You got DeAndre Hopkins coming in the trade from Houston to help Murray. Christian Kirk is someone that they expect a big jump from. Larry Fitzgerald, still around surprisingly. Max Williams starting at tight end. Their offensive line is their weakness, and that is, to me, the case against Kyler Murray having this all-world breakout year. DJ Humphries isn't bad. I believe they paid him. Kelvin Beachum, journeyman at this point. Justin Pugh didn't have a good year last year. Defensive side of the ball is not pretty. Chandler Jones is their best defensive player as of right now, in my opinion, in their front seven. Jordan Hicks is still there. Devin Kennard, the ex-Giants, there. Zach Allen, third-round pick last year. And then in the secondary, Patrick Peterson's still there. He's good. Budda Baker's not bad. Dre Kirkpatrick they got from the Bengals as a free agent. Byron Murphy, they're banking on a year 2 leap from him. In third place, I have with a record of 8-8, the Seattle Seahawks. They can obviously be better than this. They should be better than that. Russell Wilson's amazing. But I think there's flaws on this team that can ultimately come back to bite them. Pete Carroll's still around. He's getting up there in age. Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde are your running back duo. Rashad Penny on the PUP. So that's not great. Tyler Lockett's awesome. I think one of the more underrated receivers in the league. DK Metcalf, they're banking on a year 2 leap from. Philip Dorsett's bounced around a lot. Greg Olson's supposed to be their tight end. Obviously, the former Panther, who many people thought that was going to be a broadcaster this year. And then Will Dissly, who was awesome for them last year until he got injured. Offensive line, you have Dwayne Brown, Mike Upati. Those guys aren't bad. They revamped it. Damian Lewis is a rookie that's starting at right guard for them. Cedric Ogbui is somebody that was a free agent. He really hasn't worked out for them. And on the defensive side of the ball, their front seven, L.J. Collier, first-round pick from last year. They're banking a jump for him. Jerron Reed, Bruce Irvin comes back. Bobby Wagner's awesome. KJ Wright's good. And in the secondary, they had Jamal Adams in the trade with the Jets, gave up a bunch of picks. Quandre Diggs isn't bad. Shaq Griffin, they really like. Quentin Dunbar got in trouble in the offseason, so that might hurt him a little bit this season. And in the cellar in this division, 6-10, the Los Angeles Rams. It's incredible that the Rams go from A year ago, they're a preseason contender. Everybody was throwing parades for them. 2 years ago, everybody loved them too. And now, Todd Gurley gone. They tried to trade off some contracts in the offseason. Brandon Cooks is gone. This is just a good division now, and somebody has to finish last. But yeah, this is probably the best last place team in the NFC. And I said that earlier that the Bengals could be the best last place team. I was wrong. It's the Rams. Assuming that the Rams finish in last. Jared Goff, I think, is someone that's overpaid, and there's a ton of pressure on him, obviously, to have a good season, because they may be regretting that extension a little bit and don't think he's worth that money. Cam Akers, they drafted in the second round last year. Darrell Henderson was the third-round pick last year, and Malcolm Brown is there as well at running back. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Josh Reynolds are your receivers. Obviously, Reynolds is replacing the traded Brandon Cooks. Good tight end duo, Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. Offensive line, pretty good. Andrew Whitworth, Rob Havenstein at tackles. Austin Corbett is someone that could use a change of scenery. Maybe the trade last year could help him potentially become the guy that the Browns thought they were getting. And then on defense, the front seven, led by Aaron Donald, still solid. Michael Brocker's still there. Leonard Floyd comes in as a free agent. He replaces Clay Matthews. Secondary, Jalen Ramsey just got paid. Taylor Rapp is someone that they could potentially see a year or two jump from. Trey Hill isn't that bad either, actually. Alrighty. Now we'll move on to the postseason. In the AFC, you have the 2 seed, which is now plays in the wild card round. My 2 seed is the Ravens, and I have them hosting their division rival, Cleveland Browns, in round 1. So the week 1 matchup will be a round 1 matchup, which would be fun. 2 year 3 quarterbacks, Baker and obviously Lamar. I think this is finally where Lamar Jackson gets his first playoff win in what should be a close and thrilling game, as Odell Beckham Jr.'s playoff record drops to 0-2 and Baker Mayfield doesn't win his first playoff game yet. So give me the Ravens to move on. The 3-6 matchup, you have the 3 seed Indianapolis Colts against the 6-seeded Denver Broncos. So the Peyton Manning Bowl, as many people would like to say. Obviously, those are the 2 teams Peyton Manning played for. You have Rivers in the Colts and Locke in the Broncos. Maybe Von Miller's back for the postseason. Maybe it's like a J.J. Watt situation from last year where he randomly comes back for the playoffs. This is interesting in terms of which way I should go, but ultimately, I think that the Colts will come away with the win. I think they're better offensively. They're the better offensive line. Maybe Von Miller's not playing, and they'll ultimately come back to hurt Denver. So give me the Colts in what should be a close game over Denver. And in your 4-5, the 4-seed Buffalo Bills against the 5-seed Pittsburgh Steelers. Great game. I'm going to go here with the wildcard Pittsburgh Steelers here to advance to the next round with Ben Roethlisberger back and healthy. And that defense is just absolutely loaded. And I think they could dominate against the Bills' offensive line. So Josh Allen drops to 0-2 in the postseason as the Steelers move on to the next round. NFC side, your 2 versus 7. My 2 seed in the NFC, I'm going to say, will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Your 7 seed Arizona Cardinals. So you got Kyler Murray against Tom Brady in the postseason. I think Brady's going to be motivated and ready to go. I think the moment will be too big for Kyler here as the Patriots and Tom Brady move to the next round. So I'll advance the 2 seed Bucs over the 7 seed Cardinals. 3-6 in the first round of the NFC. 3 seed the Dallas Cowboys and your 6th seed Philadelphia Eagles. This happens every year, I feel like, whenever I do my playoff predictions. I always end up with the Cowboys-Eagles matchup in the first round. And here we are. Obviously, Dallas is an improved team. Philly, I think, is a little better than given credit for on the defensive side of the ball with the addition of Darius Slay. Javon Hargrave is good too. But ultimately, when push comes to shove, I think Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys get it done. I think that their offense will be too much for the Eagles' secondary, sans with Darius Slay there now to get over the top. So give me the Cowboys as the 3 seed to advance, and then your 4 seed Minnesota Vikings against the 5 seed New Orleans Saints. So here we go again. 3 times in 4 years with these two teams facing each other in the postseason. Wow. This is a tough call. I'm going to actually go with Breeze and the Saints to finally get some revenge here against Cousins and the Vikings. So give me the Saints to move on to the next round. So I have 2 5 seeds advancing. Division round, you have the 5 versus 1 Pittsburgh against the Chiefs. So this obviously was a playoff game in 2016 in that postseason, as well as the calendar year 2017. Close Pittsburgh win. Alex Smith was still the quarterback back then. I think this will be a high-scoring, competitive football game, but ultimately Patrick Mahomes is still around and still awesome. So they're moving on to the AFC title game. So give me the Mahomes' Chiefs to advance over Roethlisberger's Steelers. And then the 2-3, you got the Indianapolis Colts at the Baltimore Ravens. 2 very good teams. The difference in this game, in my mind, is Lamar Jackson. I think he finally steps up in a big playoff game in the division round. And I think that they'll advance to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the AFC title game. And on the other side, 1-5, you have a division matchup. Or no, I'm sorry. Not a division matchup, but like 2 teams that tend to face off all the time. 5-seeded New Orleans Saints against the 1-seeded San Francisco 49ers. These 2 teams have had some classics over the years. The Vernon Davis touchdown catch, who was obviously Alex Smith, the quarterback at the time for the Niners. And they had a good regular season game last year. There was like a game that was played in the 40s, and George Kittle made that big catch, and the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo prevailed with the win. I think that'll be the same result here. I think that the 49ers defense can stop Drew Brees in that offense, so give me the 49ers to advance to the NFC title game. And then a dream division matchup, you have Tom Brady and the Patriots as your 2 seed, or I'm sorry, the Bucks. It's weird not saying Tom Brady and the Patriots against 3-seeded Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy and company. I think this will be another high-scoring affair between 2 awesome teams. But ultimately, the better team this year, and it's funny because I think these 2 teams are mirror images of each other. I think the better team is the Bucks, but it's barely. And I think that Bruce Arians is a much better, or not a much better coach, but easily a better coach than Mike McCarthy. So give me Tampa Bay and Tom Brady as the 2 seed to advance against Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners as your 1 seed. So you have 2 versus 1s in the conference title games. In the AFC, you have the dream matchup against Lamar and Mahomes, 2 seed Ravens, 1 seed Chiefs. I think this is a shootout, like you would think. But ultimately, I think that Patrick Mahomes, he's the best player in the world. I think he gets it done again. He should have been in the Super Bowl 2 years ago as well. Obviously, they won it last year. So I have the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl over the Ravens of Baltimore. And in the NFC, you have the 2-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 1-seeded San Francisco 49ers. Great matchup. Tom Brady against that Niners defense. I think the difference here is that the 49ers pass rush, I think, can get to Brady here against it's a good offensive line in Tampa, but I think that pass rush is better led by Nick Bosa. So I think the 49ers will go back to the Super Bowl, as you'll see a rematch between the Chiefs and the 49ers. So give me the 49ers to advance to the Super Bowl. And then Super Bowl 50, I want to say 55. Yeah, 55 between the 49ers and the Chiefs. Should be an awesome game down in Tampa. That would have been fitting if the Bucks were my pick, because obviously then the home team in the Super Bowl, pretty much. The Vikings came close a couple years ago, courtesy of that Diggs play, and only to get blown out the next week by the Eagles. But that would be a close call for the Patriots as well. So you have the Niners and the Chiefs, again, in Florida, except in Tampa, not in Miami. I think that these two teams can score together. I think that these two teams can get stops together, too. But ultimately, one team has Patrick Mahomes and the other doesn't. So I think a rarity is going to happen. A repeat Super Bowl champion for the first time since 2004 and 2005. The New England Patriots. This time would be the 2019-20 Kansas City Chiefs to win their second straight Super Bowl. Obviously, their second in franchise history. Give me the Chiefs over the 49ers. Let's say 27-24. And then Super Bowl MVP, of course, Patrick Mahomes. He's just unreal. And he's the best quarterback in the world, bar none. And that's for sure. And now awards. MVP, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs. Who'd you think I was going to pick? Mahomes is the best player in the world. I picked him last year. He didn't win. He would have won had he not gotten hurt last year, in my opinion. I think that he is going to absolutely live up to that big extension he got from the Chiefs that he absolutely deserved. So I think he'll be your MVP. Runner-up, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just think that Brady is going to be unreal in year one in Tampa, and it's going to be reminiscent of Peyton Manning in Denver back in 2012 and 13 for Brady in Tampa with his first couple years there. Offensive Player of the Year. This is going to be a surprise. Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings. That guy's in a contract year. I think he wants to prove to the Vikings that he can stay on the field and show that he is worth what Joe Mixon got and what all these other running backs on his level have gotten. Runner-up. My runner-up for Offensive Player of the Year, George Kittle, San Francisco 49ers. I think he's in for a big year as well, and I think will lead tight ends in receiving yards as well. Defensive Player of the Year, T.J. Watt, Pittsburgh Steelers. I think T.J. Watt is better than J.J. Watt now. There, I said it. And I think the Steelers are going to have a big bounce-back year. I think Watt is the leader of that defense, the leader of that pass rush. I think that he will have somewhere like 17.5, 18.5 sacks. And I think he's going to be unreal. And my runner-up, Joey Bosa, I almost said San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, I think the Bengals are going to be bad, but I think Joe Burrow will have a similar year. Let's say Daniel Jones from last year, but Daniel Jones didn't win Rookie of the Year because he missed some games due to injury, and the Giants were 4-12. And I think there's going to be a better narrative around Burrow, and he was the number one overall pick. And I think that narrative about Gettleman overdrafting Daniel Jones certainly hurt his Rookie of the Year cause last year. But Burrow really, I think, is going to have a big season. And runner-up, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kansas City Chiefs. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Chase Young, Washington Football Team. Chase Young's special. He was the best player in this draft. I think he's going to make that Redskins defense better and make guys on that defense better. And my runner-up, Derek Brown, Carolina Panthers. Alrighty, Comeback Player of the Year. Phillip Rivers, Indianapolis Colts. I think Rivers is in for a good season this year at Indy. I have them winning the division and making the divisional round of the playoffs. Good offensive line and good talent around him. Runner-up, Rob Gronkowski, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coach of the Year, Cliff Kingsbury, Arizona Cardinals. I have the Cardinals making the postseason for the first time since 2015, courtesy of one Kyler Murray. I think Cliff Kingsbury will get a lot of credit because that defense is just not very good. And I think Kyler will will them to some wins. And I think that Kingsbury will get some credit too. Runner-up, Vic Fangio, Denver Broncos. Was there an award that I missed? I don't think so. MVP, offense, defense, rookies. You got coach and comeback. Yeah, I got all the awards down. Alrighty. The All NFL team. This is obviously the All Pro team in the NFL. All the best players get picked for this. Quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, of course. Running back, Carolina's Christian McCaffrey. Flex, we'll go with Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings. Tight end, George Kittle. Wide receivers, we'll go Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, and let's go with... this is a tough one. I want to pick somebody different. How about Mike Evans from Tampa? I think that him and Brady are just going to have great chemistry together. All right, and then the offensive line, I'm going to say Ryan Ramczyk at right tackle, left tackle Tyron Smith of the Cowboys, the guards Quentin Nelson on the left side, Zach Martin on the right side, and center Ryan Kelly of the Colts. And on the other side, all right, the edge rushers will go with TJ Watt of the Steelers, Joey Bosa of the Chargers, and then also J.J. Watt of the Texans, who I think is going to have a good year. And we'll go with... How about... Khalil Mack of the Bears, even though I think the Bears are going to be terrible this year. Interior lineman Aaron Donald, and I'm going to go with Fletcher Cox. Linebackers, obviously the inside linebackers, we'll go with... how about Leighton Vander Esch of Dallas? And we'll go with Eric Kendricks from the Vikings. Cornerbacks, we'll go with Tre'Davious White of Buffalo and Marshawn Lattimore of the Saints. Safeties, we'll go with Jamal Adams on his new team in Seattle. And we'll go with Minkah Fitzpatrick in Pittsburgh. And then the flex D-back, we'll go with Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name from the Chargers. The very good. He's very talented. Desmond King, and then kicker we'll go with Justin Tucker, and then the punter will go with Brett Kern from the Tennessee Titans again. Kick returner will go with Mecole Hardman of the Chiefs. Punt returner Deontay Johnson of Pittsburgh. Special teams Matt Slater of New England. The all-rookie team. This one's a tougher one to figure out, especially when it comes to kickers and punters. Quarterback will go with Joe Burrow. That's a no-brainer. Running backs, Cam Akers and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Wide receivers, this is tough. We'll go Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. Tight end, Cole Kmet of the Bears. Offensive lineman, Andrew Thomas of the Giants. Tristan Wirfs of the Bucks. Center will go with Lloyd Cushenberry of Denver. And then the guards, that's a tough one to project here. We'll go with Cesar Ruiz of the Saints, and we will also go with Matt Hennessy of the Falcons, who I think will see some time at guard this year rather than center, although they drafted him as a center. Defense. Interior, we'll go with Derek Brown, obviously, and we'll go with Javon Kinlaw. Edge rush, we'll go with Kalavon Chason and Chase Young. Linebackers, Patrick Queen, Kenneth Murray, and Jordan Brooks. Corners, we'll go with C.J. Henderson and Jeffrey Okudah. And then safeties, I would have penciled in Xavier McKinney had he not gotten injured for the Giants this year. We'll go instead with the Bucks safety that they drafted in the second round. Blanking on his name. Antoine Winfield Jr. And we will also, like I said, Xavier McKinney's injured, so I can't really pick him as the guy for this honor. Or maybe should we just pencil him in for this, even though, how about Grant Delpit for the other safety spot? That's a good one. The former LSU safety for that last safety spot. And obviously, like I said, McKinney would have been my choice had he not gotten injured. All right, non-rookie breakout players. Players that we will have breakout seasons that are not rookies. Cardinals, Kyler Murray. Falcons, Hayden Hurst. Ravens, Marquise Brown. Bills, Ed Oliver. Panthers, DJ Moore. Bears, David Montgomery. Bengals, Jonah Williams. Browns, Grady Williams. Cowboys, Blake Jarwin. Broncos, Drew Lock. Lions, TJ Hawkinson. Packers, Alan Lazard. Texans, Titus Howard. Colts, Paris Campbell. Jaguars, D.D. Westbrook. Chiefs, Mecole Hardman. Chargers, Nasir Adderley. Rams, Josh Reynolds. Raiders, Hunter Renfrow. Dolphins, Mike Gesicki. Vikings, Mike Hughes. Patriots, N'Keal Harry. Saints, Marcus Davenport. Giants, Daniel Jones. Jets, Quentin Williams. Eagles, Miles Sanders. Steelers, Deontay Johnson. 49ers, Mike McGlinchey. Seahawks, Will Dissly. Buccaneers, Vita Vea. Titans, Jonnu Smith. The football team, Jonathan Allen. Flop players I think will disappoint this year. Cardinals, Dre Kirkpatrick. Falcons, Dante Fowler Jr. Bills, Josh Norman. Ravens, Mark Ingram. Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater. Bears, Robert Quinn. Bengals, Trey Waynes. Browns, Sheldon Richardson. Cowboys, Aldon Smith. Broncos, Melvin Gordon. Lions, Adrian Peterson. Packers, Preston Smith. Texans, David Johnson. Colts, Justin Houston. Jaguars, Joe Schobert. Chiefs, Sammy Watkins. Raiders, Richie Incognito. Chargers, Tyrod Taylor. Rams, Andrew Whitworth. Dolphins, Byron Jones. Vikings, Kyle Rudolph. Patriots, Mohamed Sanu. Saints, Janoris Jenkins. Giants, James Bradbury. Jets, Brashad Perryman. Eagles, Deshaun Jackson. Steelers, Bud Dupree. 49ers, Richard Sherman. Seahawks, Bruce Irvin. Bucks, Shaq Barrett. Titans, Ryan Tannehill. And the football team, Landon Collins. Bounce back / comeback players that were disappointing last year are coming back from injury and are poised for big years or bounce back years. Cardinals, Patrick Peterson. Falcons, Keanu Neal. Ravens, Matt Skura. Bills, Mitch Morse. Panthers, Russell Okung. Bears, Cody Whitehair. Bengals, William Jackson III. Browns, Odell Beckham Jr. Cowboys, Leighton Vander Esch. Broncos, A.J. Boye. Lions, Kerryon Johnson. Packers, Akemius St. Brown. Texans, J.J. Watt. Colts, Xavier Rhodes. Jaguars, Andrew Norrell. Chiefs, Frank Clark. Raiders, Gabe Jackson. Rams, Rob Havenstein. Dolphins, Xavier Howard. Vikings, Anthony Barr. Patriots, David Andrews. Saints, Alex Anzalone. Giants, Evan Ingram. Jets, Le'Veon Bell. Eagles, Rodney McLeod. Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster. 49ers, Trent Williams. Seahawks, Mike Iupati. Buccaneers, Rob Gronkowski. Titans, Malcolm Butler. And the football team, Ryan Kerrigan. Next up, make or break players. Players on every team that are facing make or break years, whether because they're young and their fifth-year options declined or they're veterans that could be on short notice or really just in a tough spot. Cardinals, Mason Cole. Falcons, Ricardo Allen. Ravens, DJ Fluker. Bills, Vernon Butler. Panthers, Jermaine Carter Jr. Bears, Mitch Trubisky. Bengals, Jesse Bates III. Browns, David Njoku. Cowboys, Dontari Poe. Broncos, Nick Vannett. Lions, Gerard Davis. Packers, Mercedes Lewis. Texans, Vernon Hargraves. Colts, Malik Hooker. Jaguars, Miles Jack. Chiefs, Tyrann Mathieu. Raiders, Colton Miller. Chargers, Mike Williams. Rams, Jared Goff. Dolphins, Eric Flowers. Vikings, Pat Elflein. Patriots, Stoney Michel. Saints, Taysom Hill. Giants, Leonard Williams. Jets, Jamison Crowder. Eagles, Derek Barnett. Steelers, James Washington. 49ers, Solomon Thomas. Seahawks, Rashad Penny. Buccaneers, Ronald Jones II. Titans, Corey Davis. And the football team, Troy Apke. Next up, players under the most pressure this year for every team. Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins. Falcons, Julio Jones. Bills, Josh Allen. Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Panthers, Christian McCaffrey. Bears, Khalil Mack. Bengals, A.J. Green. Browns, Baker Mayfield. Cowboys, Dak Prescott. Broncos, Bradley Chubb. Lions, Matthew Stafford. Packers, Aaron Rodgers. Texans, Deshaun Watson. Colts, Phillip Rivers. Jaguars, Gardner Minshew. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. Raiders, Derek Carr. Chargers, Trey Turner. Rams, Jalen Ramsey. Dolphins, Jordan Howard. Vikings, Kirk Cousins. Patriots, Cam Newton. Saints, Drew Brees. Giants, Saquon Barkley. Jets, Sam Darnold. Eagles, Carson Wentz. Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger. 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo. Seahawks, Jamal Adams. Buccaneers, Tom Brady. Titans, Derrick Henry. And the football team, Dwayne Haskins. Best rookies for each team. Cardinals, Isaiah Simmons. Falcons, Marlon Davidson. Bills, A.J. Epineza. Ravens, Patrick Queen. Panthers, Derek Brown. Bears, Cole Kmet. Bengals, Joe Burrow. Browns, Jedrick Wills Jr. Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb. Lions, Jeff Okudah. Broncos, Jerry Jeudy. Packers, A.J. Dillon. Texans, Ross Blacklock. Colts, Jonathan Taylor. Jaguars, C.J. Henderson. Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Raiders, Henry Ruggs IV. Chargers, Kenneth Murray. Rams, Cam Akers. Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. Vikings, Justin Jefferson. Patriots, Dalton Keene. Saints, Cesar Ruiz. Giants, Andrew Thomas. Jets, Denzel Mims. Eagles, Kavon Wallace. Steelers, Chase Claypool. 49ers, Javon Kinlaw. Seahawks, Jordan Brooks. Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs. Titans, Kristen Fulton. And the football team, Chase Young. Now I'm going to do bold predictions for every team. The Atlanta Falcons will fire Dan Quinn after a season. I just think that the Falcons are just poised to move on for him to get another coach in there. Cardinals, Kyler Murray will have double-digit rushing touchdowns. The Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen will eclipse 4,500 yards. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson does not finish in the top 5 in the NFL MVP. So, like I said, I have Mahomes winning it, runner-up Brady. I have some other guys in the MVP as well. Dak Prescott. Maybe some defensive players as well. TJ Watt, I think, is going to be unreal this year. And I think that Christian McCaffrey can be as well. Or even Dalvin Cook, who I predicted for Offensive Player of the Year. The Carolina Panthers, I'm going to say that Teddy Bridgewater does not start all 16 games, whether that's due to an injury or maybe there's a benching. Maybe they tank for Trevor Lawrence. Who knows? The Chicago Bears will fire Matt Nagy after the season. I think they go disastrous 5-11. Matt Nagy gets the axe. And so does Ryan Pace. The Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to say that Joe Burrow will almost eclipse 30 touchdowns. I'm going to say he has 28. The Cleveland Browns. I'm going to say that Baker Mayfield will have more touchdown passes than Lamar Jackson. I know that's crazy bold, but I just like a lot of what Baker has around him, and I think bounce back year from Odell can certainly help. The Dallas Cowboys, there will be rumors about Amari Cooper being traded due to the emergence of CeeDee Lamb. The Detroit Lions, Matt Patricia fired after the season. I predicted that last year. I'm going to carry it over for this year. I just think he is not a good coach. The Denver Broncos. For them, I'm going to say that Drew Lock will have over 4,000 passing yards. The Green Bay Packers. I'm going to say Matt LaFleur also gets fired. I'm going to say that the NFC North will lose 3 coaches. And I think Zimmer getting that contract extension just gets some pressure off the Vikings a little bit. So I'm going to say that LaFleur, they go 8-8, and he's the fall guy, and Aaron Rodgers forces him out of there. The Houston Texans. I'm going to say that Bill O'Brien finally gets the axe this year. I think he should have gotten the axe when he traded DeAndre Hopkins, quite frankly. The Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to say that they have 2 of the top 10 best offensive rookies in the league. I think that when the Rookie of the Year voting comes out, I think 2 of their guys will be in the top 10 of the voting. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. The Jacksonville Jaguars win the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. I think that's easy. And also Doug Marrone's fired as well. The Kansas City Chiefs. has to be the fact that I have them repeating. We haven't seen a repeat winner since earlier in the century with the Patriots, and I think we finally see one here with the Chiefs. The Las Vegas Raiders. That's a good one. I'm going to say that Darren Waller is not a fantasy top 10 tight end this year, or not one of the best 10 tight ends in the league. I think there'll be 10 other tight ends with more receiving yards than Darren Waller. I think that guy just had a career year last year. The Los Angeles Chargers, I'm going to say that Justin Herbert will be starting for them by December. The Los Angeles Rams, I'm going to say that they trade a couple veterans away to try to get more picks and try to rebuild for the future a little bit. No way they trade Jared Goff. That's a bad contract. They won't trade Aaron Donald. They won't trade Jalen Ramsey. Maybe Cooper Kupp. Maybe Malcolm Brown. Maybe Tyler Higbee. Maybe Leonard Floyd. The Miami Dolphins. Ryan Fitzpatrick starts more games than Tua Tagovailoa. I think this is an easy one. I think you'll see Tua in kind of backs, and then maybe he gets injured and they go back to Fitzpatrick, and maybe they start Fitzpatrick for 12 weeks and then finally go to Tua. But I think there's going to be more starts for Fitzpatrick this season than Tua Tagovailoa. The Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to say that Dalvin Cook gets a contract extension. Whether that's before free agency or during the season, but it's supposed to be during the season. So I'm going to say he gets paid during the season. We see guys get paid during the season a lot, but I think he's going to have a big year, and I think it's another bold prediction to say that he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, like as I already mentioned a couple times on this podcast. The Patriots. I'm going to say for them, Cam Newton starts all 16 games. I think he's poised to have a good year. Maybe if he has a good year, the Patriots sign him to a long-term deal. The New Orleans Saints. I'm going to say that they trade either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. Maybe somebody's quarterback gets injured, or somebody's quarterback doesn't make the leap that they think, and they trade, let's say, Jameis, and they keep Taysom Hill around. The New York Football Giants, I'm going to say that, that's a tough one for them. I'm going to say that despite finishing with a losing record yet again, Joe Judge will be this year's Brian Flores. And what I mean that is that a really bad team gets a promising good coach coming from the Patriots. Like Brian Flores last year, I think that Joe Judge, despite going 5-11, I think will be this year's Brian Flores, and everyone's going to be talking about him as a good coach in the league. The Jets will finally fire Adam Gase. He's just awful. Bad job the last couple years. Not the right coach for Sam Darnold. The Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to say that Jalen Reagor comes back from his injury and he ends up with the second most receiving yards on the Eagles. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to say that what I said earlier, TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year. I think this guy's a stud. I think he's going to be unreal this year. The 49ers. I'm going to say that they trade one of their running backs, whether it's Raheem Mostert or Tevin Coleman or Jaron McKinnon. They're going to trade one of those guys to a team that needs a running back for maybe a defensive player. Maybe they trade one of the running backs to Jacksonville for Taven Bryan or something like that. the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to say that Tyler Lockett will finish in the top 10 in receiving yards this year. There's so many good wide receivers in the league. I think Lockett has a big year and finishes inside the top 10 in receiving yards this year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm going to say that Tom Brady will lead the NFC quarterbacks in passing yards and touchdown passes, but will ultimately lose a close MVP race to the best player in the world, Patrick Mahomes. The Tennessee Titans will come to regret the Ryan Tannehill extension come December. I just don't think Ryan Tannehill's all that special. But I could be wrong. Maybe Tannehill's good again. The Titans win that division over the Colts and the Texans. But I just don't think the Titans and Ryan Tannehill are all that great. And I think that Derrick Henry did a majority of carrying them last year. And then the football team, I'm going to say that Chase Young breaks the rookie sack record. As my bold prediction for the Redskins, or for the football team, I should say. That's the second time I screwed that up on this show. Now I'm going to do like miscellaneous predictions. I think you'll see a lot of trades. I hinted at Rams before. I think that there could be teams that have depth in other areas that could be a trade partner. Like the Niners at running back. Maybe the Cowboys deal Amari Cooper. But I personally think that might be another year. But we shall see. I think the Giants have guys to trade. Washington has guys to trade in terms of sellers. The Bengals too. Carolina, I think, has some attractive pieces to teams. Obviously, there could be cornerbacks that could be had. Maybe if the Patriots are super bad and they tank, maybe Stephon Gilmore gets moved. So that's going to be interesting to see what big names are moved this year or not. Because we've seen a lot of big names move over the past few years. Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham Jr., DeAndre Hopkins. I could go on and on. Stephon Diggs. But I think there's going to be more this year, whether it's due to unhappiness or teams that are trying to rebuild. Maybe the Bears move on from some pieces. I don't think they'll trade Khalil Mack. But I could see a world maybe they trade maybe Danny Trevathan or maybe, dare I say, Allen Robinson. Maybe the Lions trade some pieces away. Who knows? Atlanta, if they're bad, maybe they... I don't think they'll deal Julio Jones, but maybe they trade away like Dante Fowler Jr. or something like that. Another miscellaneous prediction. I know I predicted this last year, but I'm going to do it again. I think there will be a big name NFL player on The Masked Singer season 4. There's going to be a lot of big names on The Masked Singer this year. The football player, last year I predicted Saquon Barkley. I think this is going to be another big name player that's on a marquee team. And obviously, last season we had Rob Gronkowski. Maybe they did some of the taping in the offseason, and this player is being an excused absence that's unknown about or something. You never know. But I am going to go with... Let's go with J.J. Watt for The Masked Singer season 4. They thought he was Gronk. Some people thought he was what Gronk was last year. The it wasn't the Rhino. I forgot what Gronk was last year, and I love that show, obviously. So let's say J.J. Watt's on The Masked Singer. And in terms of broadcasters, I have one And this is someone who I made a case for last year, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go Joe Buck. Obviously, he was on the quarantine show that Fox had called Celebrity Watch Party. So he's a familiar face from there, and everybody knows who he is. So let's say Joe Buck and J.J. Watt are on The Masked Singer, and I think that'd be two big gets for that show. Every NFL Sunday we get that weird story that breaks, and it could be a distraction to a team. I think that's going to be the case again this year, whether it's a player wanting out, whether it's a player dealing with a personal situation, or a coach on the hot seat. Like you saw last year at the Redskins, or they were that last year, now they're the football team, with Jake Gruden, and how that was like a big Sunday morning headline. So you're going to see those every week, as we always do each and every year. Two more miscellaneous predictions for you. I think multiple primetime games will be flexed yet again. A team that I don't think belongs in primetime is the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that they can have a couple of primetime games flexed out for teams that deserve to be in primetime more, like the Broncos and the Arizona Cardinals. I think we'll get some as well. Maybe even the Chargers, if they overachieve, maybe they'll put Joe Burrow in primetime. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if the Bengals will actually get it, but that'd be a fun subplot if they did. I don't think their game against the Saints will be flexed out, obviously. I'm going to say it's their Sunday night game against the Chiefs that could very well be flexed out, even though it's Mahomes. I get it. But yeah, I'm going to say multiple Sunday night games are flexed. And then one more miscellaneous prediction. I am going to say that there will be less COVID cases / outbreaks than you think. I'm a half glass full kind of person, as you all know, and I'm going to say that there won't be a lot of COVID outbreaks / mini outbreaks during the season. And that's it. That's my NFL prediction special. Long show, obviously. And I hope that we're in for a great season.